Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Aitayo. Such a pleasure to be here on Friday, the 3rd of September. And we're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. If you're just joining us, this is the Good Morning Education Show. We have the show Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And such a fantastic time that we have on the show. Please make sure that you send the message out to everyone and tell everyone that the show is on. Please do not forget to like our videos, subscribe to our channel, share our videos, comment on our posts. Feel free to communicate with us on the topic of discussion for the day. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask your questions. We will entertain your question based on the subject matter of the day. This is the Good Morning Education Show. And remember, for us, it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show, and it's going to be a great morning for you. Yes, this ideally is a normal last show for the week, but we have a special announcement to make today. So get ready for that announcement because something big, something new, something better is coming your way. And on the show, we spend some time to talk about news within and around the world of education. And this we do just to be able to ensure that we get to inform you so that you can learn more, you can get more, and then you can ultimately grow more. That's the goal for us on the Good Morning Education Show. And we believe no matter how short, no matter how long it feels, it's always a great morning. It's going to be a great morning for you. It's going to be a great morning for me. It's going to be a great morning for all of us on the show. And it's such a pleasure to host you. Once again, my name is Rotimi Aitayo. I'm your host for today. So we're going to go straight to one of the headlines that we have. And do not hesitate when you share your comments with us. Please, once you're joining us, let us know your name and where you're streaming from. Thank you so much. So 2021 UTME candidates, 10 candidates with highest scores revealed. And this is talking about the 2021 UTME. You have some people who came up tops in terms of the score. And I think that's quite promising. That's quite interesting. And I would say that just want to congratulate those students for coming out tops in the UTM exam and for showing that they actually have prepared themselves to make sure that it's a worthwhile time and outing on the show. If you're there and you're one of those people that happen to be the highest score, those who scored the highest mark, please, this is our thank you and congratulations from the Good Morning Education Show, and we'll ring the bell of blessing to you as we say that. So that's on the show, and then we have another headline which I think will catch our fancy this morning. Yesterday we talked about LASU winning a fund, and this time around we're talking about college abuse video. Edo State government suspends principal and house master. If you look at it, the Edo government has suspended the principal of a public secondary school, Edo College in Benin, after a video of abuse of junior students by the senior went viral. A statement issued by the secretary to the state government, Mr. Osarodion Oge, on Tuesday in Benin, directed the principal, Mr. Peter Edomoye, to proceed on immediate suspension pending conclusion of investigation on the matter. Well, that's a sad one. I believe that students are meant to be in school and they are meant to be protected. Protected, that's the word. Child safety should not be compromised. And having videos go viral is definitely not in the best interest of anyone. And then, of course, we also have some other headlines that we could also look at, and just to give us an attention as regards Lagos, Osun, Ogun, the lead as JAM unveil. That's another one. The top UME candidates. So the top UME candidates are from Lagos, um, Osun, and Ogun State. Well, that in some cases does not really come as a surprise because it seems like Lagos State and Southwest seems to have a lot of cluster when it comes to education. And that cluster basically is just showing as much as the preparedness and the culture that is placed on education and on higher institution, formal education to be precise. That's excuse me, that's basically what I think is responsible for that. All right. We move on to another headline news, and that has to do with um, Bridge. Bridge commends pupils' excellent performance in exam. This is written by Grace Edema. Of course, we know that there's a lot that the Bridge Academy has been doing. And I believe that it's something that is praiseworthy because the Bridge Academy has been doing a fantastic job in raising excellent people within the education space, especially children and all that. Okay. Um, then let's take one more and then we'll probably have the conversation for the day. Abdul Razak comments superb monitoring of 600 contracts. 600 contracts, that's like looking at the compliance and all that. The Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak has commended the monitoring and physical inspection of ongoing school projects by the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, while presenting a letter of commendation to the chairman of SUBEB, Professor Rahim Adaramaja. The governor said that he was elated at the electronic monitoring gadgets being deployed by the board to ensure compliance with standards. So this is also thumbs up to Kwara State and of course Kwara State SUBEB in particular. And on that note, we're going to come straight to the conversation of the day. Apologies for my voice. Seems like I'm a bit under the weather today, but we will have a great time, trust me, because on the Good Morning Education Show, it is always a great morning. And so we have a topic called Much More Than Waec. Much more than Waec. And of course, if you look at the topic, it's trying to, stress on certain realities. And I want to believe that a lot of people out there, especially educators and practitioners and stakeholders, must really pay attention to the topic that we have today, much more than Waec. And of course, by way of introduction, when we talk about Waec, of course, everybody knows that Waec is a symbol or a representation of every form of terminal class exam or every form of external exam. So it's a certificate-based exam, and it's quite critical and crucial. And for those of us that have gone through the system of education, especially within West Africa and Nigeria, WAEC is not something that you are strange to or you are new to. But then I've noticed that over the years, we've kind of benchmarked the relevance of school and the school system on just the ability to make sure that we prepare people for WAEC. And it seems like there's much emphasis on WAEC, and almost every school begins to find it difficult to show any form of distinctiveness for their brand outside the fact that the students have to write the terminal exams. And please don't get me wrong. Um, of course, the basic reason for going to school is for you to have what you call academic excellence. But academic excellence should not be narrowed down to raising a crop of students who will just ace their exams. It's very important that they do well in their terminal class exams, but I believe that a school must embody or must typify something much more than that. Because if you're not careful, you find out that even our expertise, our focus, our energy, our investment will be tilting just to one thing, and there are times that you find that people come out from school and they know everything about their books, but they know nothing about themselves. They come out of school, they know everything about the subject and everything about the topics, but they know nothing about themselves. And because of the time spent in school, especially in their formative years, they've gone through primary school, they've gone through secondary school, it begins to make their foundation not as strong and as relevant as it should be. In fact, some people's social capacity to interact, their social life, is almost dead on arrival. And it's because of how we've raised the people. Please understand that the students are human beings. They are beings. They are driven by emotion. They are driven by a lot of things. And if we are representing a brand, I believe that every school must recognize that there's a promise, though not spoken in some cases, that you're making to the parent that when your child comes to my school, that child is going to become. It's not just going to become a success in the exam, but like one of the principals I once had would say, but you also want to ensure that you make a success of their life. It's good to ace exams, but at the expense of their life, it's not good. And that's why sometimes we begin to think that some things that people should engage in, especially at the student level, we think is out of focus. Sometimes people say that is rubbish. Sometimes people say it's waste of time. I remember many years ago when Facebook became a normal phenomenon where everybody began to talk about Facebook, Facebook here, Facebook here, Facebook there. Um, I was in a training or conference, I can't even remember. And while I was speaking, uh, one of the participants said, "Oh, let me tell you the problem our students have, because we're trying to address the concerns of the learning experience of students." And look, all the students of nowadays, they don't want to face their book. They are always on Facebook. Look at it again. They don't want to face their book. They are always on Facebook. And then, of course, that kind of raised some form of laughter amongst the audience, because the problem of students is that the problem is that they are on Facebook, they don't want to face their book. Then I asked a follow-up question. So if the students are on Facebook, why is this teacher, why are the educators not on Facebook? And Facebook was termed like a stigma. It was termed like a taboo. But of course, many years down the line, you see most of them are on Facebook. And even what they do on Facebook is not as productive as they had claimed earlier on. So what am I trying to say? You cannot go above the level of your civilization. You cannot go above the level of your orientation. You cannot go above the level of your exposure. And so we need to understand that for us to make learning real, we need to begin to make these things come alive. In fact, I would almost confidently say that there are times that the reason students don't really demonstrate comprehension of the subject matter, it might also be the entire way, the entire methodology put into that subject matter itself. So you find out that sometimes um, facilitators of learning, educators or teachers, as you may call them, must also try, almost like going the extra mile, to make some of these subjects come alive. We teach sometimes as if it's abstract. And it's because also a lot of us are just focused on Waec. And Waec in this situation is not just the Waec exam, it's just heavy academic content. we need to understand that sometimes you'll be shocked that you might have a more responsive, responsible, successful student when you are able to develop the student across certain divides. You know, I remember growing up, a lot of emphasis was also placed on football. And football is a team sport, but then, of course, there's only a number of people that can play at a goal. And so, what happens is that if you are not one of those favorites, or if you did not make up the number, then it's almost as good as, you know what, just take a seat. And this is why I'm saying that it's not everybody that will love football. It's not everybody that will play football. In some cases, we need to create avenues. But you see, sometimes, if the teachers are not exposed to other sports, if the teachers are not interested in other sports, if the teacher don't have equipping to engage, train, and model people, if they themselves will not participate on it, in it, then it's almost difficult for the sport to take a life on its own. You know, so this is why I'm saying that we must come back to the drawing board, especially the opportunity we have now is that we're starting a new session. We're coming into a session where everyone can easily say that it is time for us as a people to say that let's rewrite the story, that the academic session of 2021 and 2022 will witness several things that will not jettison the academic excellence aspect of it, but will open us up to making learning more exploratory, more experiential, more engaging, more equipping. Because at the end of the day, if the students don't get empowered, learning hasn't taken place. If the students don't get equipped, learning is not experiential, you know. And there are times that when we focus too much, one of the things that you tend to see is that we heighten the fear. I know that. Let me share my personal experience before I wrote Waec. Of course, people have been drumming it in the ears. You normally hear people who write an exam and probably they didn't do well, or probably something happened. And then they're like, hey, you must not fail. You must not do this. You must pass. You must pass in one city. You must do this. You must do that. And even when there was no fear, fear eventually came into the situation. Where there should be no fear, fear began to be lost. And one of the things I've discovered that fear does is that fear immobilizes you. Fear tends to paralyze you. As I'm speaking, I'd like to welcome Dr. Ifyo Ikedu of the
Morning.
AE. One thing about Ifyo is Ifyo, if she get something done, she goes for it. Because if you do, you do.
I'm not sure I heard what you said there, but good morning.
Yes, it's good that you did not hear.
Oh, really? Okay.
I said that one thing about Ifyok is when she wants to get something done, she gets to hold on to it and get it done. So
Well,
this is you showing up on a Friday, and I know what it means for you to show up on a Friday
yeah.
because you're doing a countdown. But I can technically still beat you at it because the time you are joining the show and
Um. Well, where there's a will, it's about setting my priorities right. Yeah. So, well, I'm happy that at least I could be on the show for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna be out of the way. So, yeah.
you're counting the 7 days straight.
Oh, actually, um, yeah. Well, yeah, you can say that again. Yeah, because I'm looking forward to having you here in Abu Dhabi in the UAE at
All right. Thank you so much for joining. So we're talking about much more than Waec. Can you hear me? If you can, please say something. If you're, are you there? Hello, if you're. Oh dear, I think we have a network issue. So while we're waiting for Ifyok to join us, I was talking about the unnecessary fear that sometimes we tend to sow as a seed in the hearts of students. All of a sudden, sleep becomes a crime. All of a sudden, the kind of food you eat becomes a crime. All of a sudden, talking to your friends and going out to play becomes a crime. Why? Because everybody says you're writing Waec and you're talking to your friends. You're writing Waec and you're sleeping. You're writing Waec and the question is this. Hope you understand that to write or sit for a major kind of exam, it is not just requiring head knowledge, it's requiring body composure. It's requiring that the individuals concerned that they are mentally ready. In fact, I've spent some time to work with certain kind of people on mental readiness. If you don't get people mentally ready, it's possible that lack of mental readiness can have an impact on the performance of people during exams. I've had situations, funny situations, but not necessarily funny, where sometimes people remember a particular answer, and just because of the tension in preparing for the exam, all of a sudden they can't write, or they know the answer, but it's not just coming out. And for some people who spend time to just regurgitate, cram, and all those things, if you miss a line, it's as good as you missed everything. And these are the reasons, because the anxiety before sitting for the exam is so high that anxious students, sometimes I let me kill up. I remember one of those exams that um, I wrote. I think there was something they brought into the hall and then they dropped it. But the sound with which, because everyone is quiet writing exam, the sound with which that thing was dropped. Imagine you drop like maybe a carton of A4 paper, rim of paper, and it does boom. And you just get startled and you're trying to get yourself back, because the tension and the skillfulness of getting us ready for some of these things, but you find out that a lot of people probably could be wired better for exams, even through other things. One who's already, let me give you an example. If you are into athletics, especially track and field events, if you are running, you know how it is. On your mark, set and go. Imagine someone has been used to that. When you're on your mark, you're able to simulate that you're preparing for exam. Set, you're preparing for exam. You're getting set. People have now mastered the act and the art of getting set. To go becomes almost like immediate. It becomes sudden. It becomes good. We can use some of these other experiences to douse the tension, to equip and raise our consciousness and awareness level so that we're able to do so much. And I want us to begin to ask ourselves, and the question will be there as you're listening to me or you're watching the replay much later. You're at school, you're a teacher, you're an administrator, you're head of curriculum, you're head of content. So what exactly should we be looking at as we speak about much more than Waec? I think one of the things we should be looking at is that we need to take the word, or we need to take the word student experiences, to bring it forward and do some measure of conversation and convergence on it. The student experiences, um, or the student experience in your school, the student experience in your institution. And this is not just for secondary and primary, but also in tertiary institution. What is the student experience like? And sometimes we need to audit it. And there are different ways to audit it. Are they favorably disposed? Are they excited about learning? What's the atmosphere of learning? What's the condition of learning? What do we put them through? What's the kind of assessment for learning? How do we raise seriousness and consciousness for exams, and all those things? Do they have time out? Those who are in boarding facilities or boarding schools, what's the prep like? What's the all these things must be brought in such a way where you must, as a regulator, educator, teacher, or whatever you are, you must think like that person that is expressing. If you were the student, will you give it thumbs up? Will you give the experience a thumbs up? Will you give the experience, something that you can say, yes, you are excited about? Would you recognize it as a system that is almost going to be one that is sought after? When you are able to identify the student experience, then you need to also look at the student outcome. Experience is one, outcome is another. I'm sure you are all familiar with the word that the end always justifies the means. The end always justifies the means. What it simply means is this, that we must understand that the outcome most of the time cannot be left in itself as an happenstance. It's not a subject matter that we should leave and go, well, if it happens, it happens. No, there must be some level of design and deliberateness where you look at it as an individual and you're saying that what are the student outcomes? You know, sometimes we need to look at it and we must spread the benchmark. Student outcome should be not just, oh, the grade, you know, emphasis on A, emphasis on 100, emphasis on 90 over 100. That's good. But we need to look at student outcome at a more robust level. Student outcome at a more robust level. That means that you can say that, are these students demonstrating excitement? What's the excitement level? What's the comprehension level? What's the mastery level? What different things are the outcome? Are they confident? Are they able to, integrate, internalize, apply? All these are factors that we need to consider. Let's welcome Ifyok back. Okay, oh my goodness. Ifyok, wherever you are, why not try to beat the internet to it today so that you can win your ultimate prize. So thank you all for joining. For those who are just joining us, this is the Good Morning Education Show, and my name is Rotimi Eitai, and I'm your host today. And obviously, we have our session Mondays to Fridays, and then of course we have opportunity for our guests and analysts to join us on the show. And we've been having, I think, internet issues with Ifyok. Ifyok is one of our analysts on the show. We like to call her last born. She's actually streaming and joining us from the UAE. That's the United Arab Emirates. She's in Abu Dhabi in particular. And then we have other people across the world. We have from London, we have from Kenya, we have from Uganda, we have from Lagos, we have from Abuja, we have across the world. And we of course have our tribe members, you listening to me, who are loyal to us, listening to us consistently all the time. So thank you all for joining. We appreciate you, and I think you deserve a blessing. So back to what we're trying to say, and I hope it's making sense. I really wish I could see your face or hear from you or get to see your comments so that I can easily get to understand. And if you do have questions, please drop it in the comment section. I will take your questions as they come in. But then today, like I said earlier, we're talking about much more than Waec. And this brings us to uh, the question sometimes people have been raising. I think that the curricular experience and the curricular focus has become overrated, and that's where people need to begin to look at the things that we call co-curricular experiences and extracurricular experiences. Well, let's even go to the co-curricular experience. Please understand that we need to see the entire learning world as complementary. We must make sure that it's so relevant and relative, that people are empowered every step of the way. I don't believe that it's until you end SS3 as a secondary school student before you consider yourself empowered. Neither do I think it's until you end university before you consider yourself empowered. The world's level of achievement and tolerance of achievement are strong in such a way that regardless of your age, you can do things that are defining and meaningful as industries are concerned. And that's why we should begin to understand every term should be treated as if it was indirectly graduation. Why? Because the children must be able to graduate from one knowledge experience to the other, from one confidence level to the other, from one totality to the other. We must begin to look at it from such perspective that this actually can happen. And when it happens, then you begin to see that's when education is really doing what it's meant to do. And that's why I think we need to ask ourselves, what is the kind of focus that has been placed on the co-curricular experience? Yes, in fact, in Nigeria, we are heavily content-based, especially on the curriculum. But let's talk about it. And that's where sometimes a lot of people think that national curriculum or Nigerian curriculum seems not to be the best of marketing concepts for some schools. But the reason is because a lot of times there are things that they don't know that they want to say, but the only way or the only expression they're left with is using the word curriculum. So when we look at the curricular experience, let's begin to tilt and dwell towards what we mean by the co-curricular experience. The co-curricular experience is now like putting bricks together but adding mortar in between. That makes it a wall. That makes it cemented. Certain things that complement the learning experience, certain things that make the classroom much more than a room, something that makes it borderless in nature. And then, of course, we know, of course, the extracurricular activity is also a is like a gold mine waiting to be explored. And I really want to appreciate educators so far for all they do, even trying to do more with less. But you need to begin to think about it that the extracurricular activity might just be sometimes one of the selling points for your brand, but not just at the marketing level, enrollment level, but at the experiential. Remember, we spoke about outcomes. Outcomes are very, very vital. And then when you're able to have the extracurricular in place, we're not looking at it as just extracurricular activity. We want it to go beyond activity to extracurricular activation. Activities sometimes are just a product of calendar. We just do this and then we'll have fun. We do this, we celebrate. We do this, we make publicity. We do this, we get visibility. But we want to be able to make sure it's part of the wiring of the participant and the school community, you know. And that's why it shouldn't be strange when we begin to record people through these activities, through this focus, begin to reach the level of their potential or surpass their kind of potential. And that's my concern, you know, that we shouldn't always be embracing the same old. Oh, this is routine, this is a plan, this is a committee, and we're going over and over and over again. And if at all you're bringing innovation, your innovation should not be at the expense of you looking at the total outcome. Your innovation must align, must add to the outcome, you know. And I think that, with all that I've been saying for those who've been listening to me, I think this is just a call, it's a wake up call to all of us, especially for those who also are within the content supply or content creation industry. We need to service education better. There are many things that we can do that we are not yet doing. There are many things we should become, but we have not yet become. And how do we do that? We begin to ask ourselves questions and begin to say, what's the quality of experience? What's the quality of results that we seek? And we can actually start with this new session in mind. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to really drive honest conversations where people look at us and we look at ourselves and we say that, look, this is not working any longer. This is just keeping up with the Joneses. This is not working any longer. This is just crossing the T's and dotting the I's. We must begin to ask ourselves. And I think it's at that point where sometimes as a school, you might need to sit down and say, let's revisit our vision. Is our vision also incorporate for this reality? Sometimes it is. You need to ask yourself, do we need to envision right? Is there an out of alignment? Is there a need for us to be able to capture and cascade and say that when we are going to, it should not just be a desire and a feeling. It should be crafted and articulated in such a way that there's a building block, or better still, a roadmap that leads us there. And everybody begins to ask themselves, what do we have to do to get there? What do we have to stop to get there? What are the things that we need to start to get there? These are the things that are very pertinent as we begin to ask ourselves that we need to have a reality in education that is much more than Waec. Our celebration and focus should not just be exams only. So I'd like to welcome Olushola Olumide, another analyst on the show. Welcome. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Project Director. I'm doing great this morning.
Fantastic,
It's
fantastic.
lovely being on the show this morning.
Yes, thank you so much. And so we're talking about much more than Waec. Thinking about how our identity or our relevance or what we celebrate should not just be academic prowess or academic preparation for terminal exams. It should be much more than that. So let's hear your thoughts and some comments from that.
Yes, I think it is a great topic, and it couldn't be truer than the things you have said. I think we made our students to see the issue of the thinking of writing the exam just like a destination, not a process. And all they are bent on doing is that let me just write Waec, have my A, B's, or C's. Whether the learning process was robust or not, whether you have actually gained or not, that appear to matter less. And of course, yesterday, one of the headlines was talking about a body calling for the scrap of the 6334. For me, will I say the nomenclature isn't really the challenge for me, but whichever way, whether 6334 or which other system we want to turn to, are students really enjoying the process? Are they being fed with the necessary? Because the primary education has its objective. The secondary education has its objective. The tertiary institution has its objectives. So if in a bid to just pass Waec, we lose out on the objective of secondary school education, those guys will be ill prepared for the next phase of life. And there are certain things they need to come to terms with. There is a certain level of skill set you ought to have gained as a secondary school cert holder. But we are not seeing that in our age. And that is why, if we don't allow the process or give room for the process, making it robust and allow students to enjoy themselves, if you just continue to talk about Waec, how you must pass, how you must pass, people will end up passing whichever way. And not necessarily having the skill set. Of course, I think it's one of the things that had even promoted the examination malpractices. Now, let me just have my results. I don't expect a student who went through secondary school and learned all he or she needs to learn and find such a student shouldn't find it difficult to cope with 100 level work. In fact, you need to see the rate is on the increase. The number of students being withdrawn from my institution at the end of 100 level. Many of them on probation. Only for you to go and look at the Waec and you wonder, sorry, did you mean you go through secondary school? How come you couldn't cope with 100 level and some of them having a CGPA of less than one point? So I think we should focus on the objectives. Let's be sure both the curricular and the extracurricular and the co-curricular, let them have a feel of what it takes. And I tell you, by 16, 17, when those guys are leaving high school, they will have been able to gain the required skill set. In fact, do you know that normally it was designed that you may not necessarily gain admission immediately, or some may not necessarily go further beyond secondary school, but there is a certain skill set you ought to have acquired, which has prepared you for a level of work, manpower, level you can fit in. In those days, secondary schools told us they were working. So that means they went through school, gained the required skill set, which prepared them for either clerical role or a technical role, and with their own level, it will even surprise you that not even all of them had the 5 credit. But because they went through the process, maybe they had maths, they didn't have English, or they have English, they didn't have maths, they had 3, 4 other credits, they were able to fit into a space of work and they were delivering while they are trying to rewrite their paper. In fact, some of them who had their O levels complete went for A levels. And some of them were 7 students. They prepared themselves and they became ready for higher institution. So I think the topic cannot be truer than all you have said. Let's realize that beyond having the paper certificate, the skill set, has it been acquired? I think that should be our target. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That you just kind of further hit the nail on the head in articulating that, and that brought what some of the things that brought up two issues which also happens to be concerns which also happens to be focus as well. Issue, concern, and focus together. Number one is this. I think we need to have, I think there's a miseducation on the word results, because sometimes they ask, what's your result? What results do you have? And when we say what's your result, we are trying to zone in on what the grade or certificate, or what's the score on certificate. If you've gone through primary school, the result you have is not just paper. The result you have is literacy, the literacy skill, numeracy skill.
Yes.
The result you
Yes.
have is questioning skill. Those are
Yes.
results. Those are results. When you go through GSS 3, for example, like in Nigeria, for those who are listening to us who probably are not in Nigeria, that's like the first half of secondary school. The result you should have is self-consciousness, self-awareness. In some cases, self-leadership. In some cases, you are able to get aware to understand what society needs are, society concerns are. You are able to identify what you naturally will call talent, not the way people call talent, because that's another word for another call talent. You know, when you get to, those are results. So when all that we can say that makes you a person is 5 credits, then every other thing is not considered results. It's put at the background. And that's why sometimes people don't believe that they are equipped for life if they don't have a paper. And that's the irony of this thing.
Yes.
Because that's what happens to when people now get into university. They don't leverage on everything that happens in between. They only wait for final year. Sometimes people plan at final year, or some people penultimate year. Some of the topics even that people share, even people who do content outside the core school content, they don't share this content until when, oh, you know, now you're about to go out of the university. It is wrong for people to wait till that time, because we are not all on trajectory. It's not inter sport where everybody's on your mat on the same spot. People will branch out in life at different levels because of their different orientation, needs, disposition, strength, resource mobilization, and the likes. So sometimes you find out that the entrepreneur, some people should have started the entrepreneurship journey from SS3, from year 1, so that they will really know the path they are at, seek the support that they require, get the mentorship, and by the time they are out of university, they are plugging in and they are becoming a sensation. But after university, where you're starting on full life, that's why you find that a lot of people depend on getting a job. Why? Because it's already structured for them. And it's for them. But nobody wants to explore, because the process of exploration, if you remember, secondary school is an exploratory phase. It wasn't sweet enough. The process of exploration, university is an exploratory phase, but it wasn't sweet enough for people. Why? Because that's why a lot of Nigerians typically don't want to continue don't want to do masters, especially here. Why? Because if you think of what you went through for the first 4 years,
you will not want to go back.
You don't want it. See, sometimes the first thing graduates need is not to know how to write a CV, is not how to detox, because a lot of undergraduates or a lot of graduates, they've been messed up with and they don't know. And that's why a lot of people, we've employed people, we've seen interns, I've seen things. Somebody comes in and is now blaming the lecturer or blaming the school. They didn't teach us. But didn't life teach you? Life is also a teacher. Life is a school. And these are things that even your course wouldn't have taught, even if we look at the excuses people give. Because people have not been introduced to life, all they've been introduced to is grades, scores, exams, and books. And that's why even people don't know how to handle friendship. Why? Because they didn't understand the purpose of friendship. You understand? In the name of I don't know, I want to stay on my lane, I want to do my day. Those are silly mantras that comes out of people's mouth, because they don't even understand that we are social beings. And if we have to put it, we should actually have a grade for social competence. We should
competence,
because why are we teaching emotional intelligence now? Why is it so essential now? Is it not because we found out that it's not just meant to be a skill? It's no more even meant to be a skill now. It's now a reality. Before now, we have to teach people the emotionally intelligent. Why it's a skill, you win people over, you achieve things. But now it's a reality, especially within the kind of economic climate that we find ourselves. And I think that the most structured ecosystem that has not been tampered with is still the primary and the secondary school system. Why?
You are right.
Yeah.
To buttress what you have said, then please, you are going to, I think, I will need the download of this video. Push just day before yesterday, 3 guys walked into my office. They needed to do something. So while interacting with them, I found out that they just graduated. And the 3 of them, 2 guys and a lady, the 3 of them were the president of their department. Immediately, I had to stop what I was doing and I started engaging them. I now told them the reason why I'm engaging is that you are the lady and you are the president of the School of Communication. She said, yes, they are gone. I said, I'm happy for you. I just spent some 10, 15 minutes with them. And by the time I explain what they have done, being the president, what they have done, what they can do with the leadership role they have occupied, you know, the 3 of them were just looking at me. And they were like, so they were, you could see the expression on their faces that, you mean there is so much more. And they could also see the gap. Oh, we never thought this much. Because normally they went through school. These are the things they need to have been taught. And in fact, one of them finished from the Faculty of Education. And I told him he should get me the number or bring the present president of the faculty. Yeah. He should bring him to me. That I want to have a session with all the students in the Faculty of Education. That even you read the education not because you wanted to read education. He laughed. And it made him realize that
everywhere.
Yes, studying education
across many states.
I said studying education does not make you a second-class citizen. By the time in fact, eventually I showed him that my book, Intelligence for Educators.
Yeah.
So he looked at it. So I withdrew the book from me. I said, no, it's not for you. In fact, it was frustrating. I said, give me this book. My hand has touched it. Don't let me go. Eventually, I gave him the book just for him to go and read. Because if at graduation, maybe at 20 or 21, these guys don't even know the next step to take going forward. And yet, of course, they have results. They will tell you, I'm a graduate of so and so. I finished in this department. I finished from this school. But can you leverage on all that has happened in the school, the 4 years, make it a stepping stone to higher ground? And I needed to give them specific things. Write this down, write this down, write this down. Go to this site, check on this. In fact, I had to tell him, please check on Rotimi Itayo. We're online 8 to 9 every morning, Monday to Fridays. In fact, I'm going to try to wrap up that engagement today so that I can have a session with the current president, then find a way to meet all the students, both 100 to 400 level, introduce them to something like this. And say, please, spare 8 to 9 every morning. If you cannot spare it, can you please go to your Rotimi Itayo's YouTube page and watch the replay? Already that is in the pipeline, so that they will understand that, oh, there is much to my life. There is much to what I can do being here. Already, as you have said, the psyche, an average student in our tertiary institution, especially public tertiary institution, has been programmed terribly.
Yeah.
The level of fear, except for few. I met a professor of human resource management, and when we spoke, I was very happy with what he did. He said one of the best students he had wrote the exam and scored low. He said the lady came to me and said, Oga, I should have scored more than this. Oga said, are you sure? He said, yes, I'm sure. He said, I went to bring out his script. And when, lo and behold, I went through the script, that question 1, that the lady has written 5 pages of that question 1 alone. He now said, I told her, I saw what you wrote, but do you know that was not what the question was asking for?
Wow.
I now explained to her, The man said, I still upgraded that mark. For me, upgrading of the mark is not the ultimate, but that the professor could give that little girl the chance to prove her worth.
Yeah.
He didn't send her out of the office.
Yeah.
He didn't turn her to an enemy. He didn't say, what audacity,
how dare you?
Country.
You know.
You understand? In fact, the man follows me on status, is a prof. In fact, he requested for this, my book, Winning with Emotional Intelligence. So when I took it to him in the office, it was then we're now discussing this, and he brought out the reality. You know, I was very happy that a whole professor can come down low, relay with your student, give them that opportunity to hear their view, converse together. Oh, this is not what I asked for. I asked for ABC. Actually, you thought it was DEF. So even though you have made a great point, writing so much, but that was not the thrust of the question. You know, even if the man didn't upgrade the lady's mark, that lady would have left satisfied, learn from a mistake. Not that somebody will look at you and say, you mean you are calling for your
most
script?
most of our exams, we write them as if it's lottery.
Thank
it's
you.
As if it's gambling. You just hope.
Yes.
And that's why sometimes and you know, I laugh when people say that why should you pray about an exam? Why shouldn't you pray? When
In Nigeria.
In Nigeria,
You will pray.
prayer is part of academic excellence because
excellent.
Yes, because the system itself is such subjected to inconsistency that everybody uses their edge. Some people
Project director.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah.
Without being sounding over religious, the system we operate has made a lot of things to become prayer point. I know a professor, when he was doing his PhD, he went to meet his supervisor. After doing some things, he needed this big brown envelope. So the professor said, go to this, you can go there and pick one from all those ones that have been discarded. So he went to those envelopes waiting to be evacuated to either to be burnt or to go and put on the outside refuse. As he scanned through it, he picked one of the envelope to use. Lo and behold, he saw 2 scripts inside the envelope. See, when we say prayer is part of excellence, you may not understand. We are in Nigeria. 2 scripts. He said one of those students had an A.
Wow.
Imagine if he didn't come to meet the supervisor or demanded for a brown envelope. Those students automatically will have to rewrite the paper. So that is how serious the situation is in Nigeria. It's not because we are undermining preparation or hard work, but sincerely speaking, the environment requires you to pray and say, let the unseen, all-seeing eye intervene in your matter. Yes, you can continue.
All right. So Gideon XN is saying, how do we get the book? You mentioned two books now. That's the Winning with Emotional Intelligence, and I think
Intelligence for Educators.
Yes. River State.
Is in Port Harcourt. Oh, we can we bill it to you. I mean the hard copy, and send it to you in your location.
Okay.
We can do that.
I'll connect you with Gideon SN. That's no problem.
Okay.
He's one of our loyal tribe members. A fantastic guy as well. So as we try to bring this to a close, because a lot of we've said a lot of things, and we want people to understand. We are not just ranting. We are really talking about things that they are essential and important. You know, and you know, it's even on this reason. I'll just use the opportunity to announce that now on the Good Morning Education Show, we will be having it Mondays to Sunday.
Great.
Yes, so Saturday is called the weekend special. So we will have Saturday in the morning, Sunday in the evening.
Good.
Although the weekend focus is a subject focus, so it's not so broad as we sometimes have on on Mondays to Fridays. So
Mondays to Fridays.
now
Great.
your Good Morning Education Show is now 247, which what I mean by 247 is we are here Mondays to Sundays, on Saturdays in the morning, and then of course on Sunday it's going to be in the evenings. And
Great.
we just want to ensure that, look, education itself is a gold mine. It's an oil and gas in disguise. And
Yes.
we want people to understand that. And it's like almost indirectly an agenda that is actually against our own development. When people don't recognize that there's so much more out there. There's so much more out there. And that's why you find out that a lot of people cannot even leverage on their ecosystem. Think about it. Some universities have over 20,000 students in the university. And guess
Some
what?
some over 50,000.
Imagine. And a student will come out and say, I don't know anybody. It's those are things that we need to go back to. The reason you don't know anybody is because something went missing from your foundation. You cannot be in that kind of ecosystem, structured ecosystem. In fact, it's the responsibility of the university to ensure that its graduates do well. It's not by giving them money, by making sure that ecosystem is available as a resource. You understand? But you see, you can't do much more than you see. It's the head that has the eyes. Unfortunately, people taking headship are actually having the feet, having the hands, because it's not those who have the eyes that are having it. You know, so as people listen to us out there, we need to understand that regardless of the value chain you occupy, whether you're a stakeholder consultant, whether you're a business person, you're not even in education, this applies to you. We need to understand that certificates is just visible proof and validation of you attaining certain achievement. We need more certificates. A student should come out of secondary school and not only have Waec, it should have more certificates. And I'm not talking about, oh, you went to do karate and they gave you karate plaque. No, I'm talking about several things that make you complete, especially in the climate we have. In some countries, if you live within a riverine area,
environment,
they will teach you survival skills based on the environment you find. That meaning, for example, ideal thing is Lagosians must know how to swim.
How to swim, yeah.
Because we are around water. We are around water. Anything can happen. We go over Third Mainland. A lot of people don't even think about it. We go sometimes on ferry. We go sometimes through flood.
It's about the easiest route to escape.
Do you understand? You must know how to swim. You know, and in some other places, you must know how to talk. But you see, this thing is based on. So you go into secondary school and you're going to university and you are depending on a 4-year term. That's why sometimes this strike can easily work. All this ASU strike. Listen, if it's other climes and there was ASU strike like this, you'll find out that the university and the government won't even bother striking, because at some point in time, they look like that. The student don't need you. When you are ready, they don't need you. But when there's a strike, it affects the student. It's because life is on halt. You understand? A student cannot venture into his life. When in fact, it should even be good when you have ASU strike. Why?
Yes.
Because you are pushing your enterprise. You're making yourself an associate to other people. You are becoming when all the lecturers begin to see that their students are coming in cabs to the lecture, they're not just strolling around buying risky burger and the likes of it. You will find out that they themselves will step up. There's a way you teach someone that you know has content and you recognize has content, or you teach someone that you know is popular and celebrity. You will respect the person.
You will respect.
And it will convey in your messaging. But
that's it.
Unfortunately, directly and indirectly, we don't see anything in this student. We just see them as numbers. We see them as numbers. Get matric number. We see them as numbers. So guess what? They are nothing. You don't care if this person is the one opening the salvation for the family. You don't even care whether this one is sent to school by community fund. Why? Everybody, you're on your own, and that's it's just carelessness and lack of value. And this is because everything that all school system has been bringing up is certificates, and that is the biggest scam that has happened in the education community. You'll find out that people will write Waec 10 times and they'll be halting in one position. I have clients that didn't go to secondary school. I even have a client that didn't write Waec. He's a billionaire. I'm not
Yes.
talking about, I'm not talking about sacrificing and formal education. What I'm trying to say is
Yes, I understand.
life should not stop because of paper.
Because of
Waec. Paper. Some of us are not even using what we used and what we studied. You understand?
Yes.
Because that's the principle, and it's not wrong. I'm not saying that everybody should become an entrepreneur. No, I'm just saying that life is much more higher, more longer than your process of formal education.
Formal education.
In fact, formal education should not be placed above life education, which is the real education. Do you understand? So I think we've said a lot, and I hope people out there can
yes. One, I think it will. Then wherever we find ourselves, we should keep engaging. For me, I don't know, maybe because of the kind of tribe I am in, some of these things we share. Once I see these young people, in fact, I told you those ones that came on Tuesday, I met another group in the bank. In fact, it was in the bank. So when I also discovered that they were ESCO members, I just had to move them. Three guys. I just had to, they kept looking at me. They would be wondering. I told a set of them that I didn't even study education in my first degree. So I think we should, like the Holy Writ admonish, being the eye to the blind, the leg to the lame. Yes. In our circle, wherever, circle of influence, as educators here, please, like Dr. Derin will usually say, she's a lecturer with a different touch, that our student will look at it, but you do things differently. She's modeling greatness. Beyond what she's teaching, the student will look and say, hey, this courage is superb for me. I want to be like this, madam. You know, that kind of a thing. Yeah. So, as educators, beyond the subject or the curriculum we are dishing out to the student, please let us become a living epistle of greatness. Absolutely. Let's be the teacher or the educator the child will look up to and say, I wish to be a teacher or an educator too. So, by what we say, by what we are not saying, while in the class, while outside the class, I'm trying to push more, engage. I've spoken to the school counselor. He looked at me. He's a PhD holder. He said, why are you not part of our armchair counselor? I said, I want to be. I don't know who to talk to. We engage. Then talking to the director of entrepreneurship, we're trying to bring this issue of mentoring session into the entrepreneurship aspect. In fact, we speak now. We sit together 2 days ago. He was telling me, we'll send to you. Beyond the fishing, fashion, leather making, art making, is that I said I can talk. And I showed him 2 days ago. I am Tony Elumelu Foundation mentor. I'm going to be one of the people judging the over 15,000 entrepreneurs for this year. I said, I have so much to give to these students. If I'm judging graduates, people who are practicing already. So I said, I have what it takes to take these students to a higher level. He looked at the mail sent to me. He was like, wow. So wherever we are, let us model greatness. Let's be the epistle for the younger generation to read and rise. Thank you very much.
We've had a great time today on the show, and we have to draw the curtains right now on today's show. We will be back. Mind you, don't forget, the Good Morning Education Show is now Mondays to Sunday. And on Sunday, it's going to be in the evening. And of course, tomorrow is in the morning, 9 a.m., I believe. We will send out the poster for tomorrow's topic. It's going to be a great time. And I can tell you to only get better. So those of you that keep watching after the show, there's something special for you tomorrow. Now the Good Morning Education Show is every day just for you. Make sure you go out there, do something with what you know. Don't just know, do something what you know. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you. Yes, Project Director, before we find out, today's supposed to be the 5th day of Ethiopia being around. Is it that the network conspire against Ifiok or what? You have to visit Ifiok in Dubai, because I see that she's been consistent this week. I wouldn't know what happened to network today. Ifiok, I'm rooting for you. At least we saw your face, even if it is 1, 2, 3 minutes. It shows you appeared on the show today also. Thank you very much.
With God, all things are possible.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
All right. So thank you, everyone. And it's been a great
It is
morning.
always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.